Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Campaign TV Show, the podcast. I am your host, Brother King Cam, and tonight we got another special show in store for y'all. So I want y'all to do me a favor, and I want you to like and share this out to as many people as possible. Get this to all your friends and family members, because we're going to be talking about tonight the divine value of the Black woman. We're going to be talking about the value of her life, or the lack thereof, based on the things that we're seeing in society today. So I want you to share, and I want you to like, and I'm also going to assist in doing that myself, make it a cooperative effort. And I got a special guest, a sister that is powerful out here on these internet streets, excellent representation of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and just a powerful example for the young sisters out there. So I want y'all to tap in. So I want y'all to share, like, and share this out real quick, because there's been a lot going on dealing with Black women, dealing with relationships, dealing with a lot of different things. So I really want to get into it, and I wanted to have a sister come on because I wanted, for myself as a man, not to continue to speak on it from my own perspective, but I wanted the sisters to give their perspective, because they're living this every day. They're seeing this every day. They are active, not even gonna say participants, but they're actively dealing with this type of stuff and seeing this type of stuff, have the feelings toward these different things that's going on. So I think it's going to be beautiful to actually have a sister's point of view on this situation.
Praise be to Allah.
Absolutely. So again, family, welcome to the Campaign TV Show. And I have a special sister on who is an influencer on social media, powerful representation of the teachers. She specializes in disaster preparedness, making sure that we stay aware and prepared for disasters, and making sure that our homes are stocked up on the proper food, water, emergency supplies, all that good stuff. And she is coming right to you from the great city of Atlanta, Muhammad Mosque number 15 to 15. Yeah. And this is my sister, Taquela Muhammad. So I want y'all to go ahead and, embrace her as she come on to the show. And sister, would you like to just say a few words to the listening audience?
Yes, sir. All praise due to Allah. I like to first say, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I thank you all for joining us, bringing balance to the show. Brother Zaki, thank you so much for this opportunity. It was time last year, 2019, the time of the woman. So I think this is just a good opportunity for us to dialogue and just put some things out there about the Black women and the Black woman.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And thank you for that. So as y'all know, we want to try to lead off all the shows with words, divine guidance and wisdom from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So I want to show you a clip of the minister teaching us the divine value of the woman. Let's see this right here. See, a lot of the brothers don't know. So we got to educate and elevate. So let me go ahead and get this pulled up. Words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
But I don't like the practice and the way it treats women. Come on. It's so different from what the prophet wanted. Yes, yes. The way Christians treat their women is so different than what Jesus wanted. The way the Jews treat their women is so much different than what Moses wanted. Yes. Till women all over the world are crying out. Yes. Because they're abused and misused and disrespected. Because we men don't know the value of a good woman. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me that woman is the heaven of man. You don't need to die and go to heaven. If you're alive and know how to treat a woman, you got heaven on earth while you live through a woman, if you understand. She's created. She's created by God to console a man, to give him peace and quiet of mind. That's the Quranic view. The Bible said she's created by God to help man to meet the obligation that God laid on man. She's his natural helper. But a man don't need a woman who's going no place with no idea, no vision, no plan. A man don't need a woman to do nothing. When you abuse a woman, you kill the essence of her being and what God has put in her for man. So you ruin her in her future. When she meets the man that she loves, she can hardly give him what God put in her to give him because she's been wounded. And unless God healed that woman, her man will become dissatisfied. She wants to give him, but she can't. There's pain and hurt. So she'll go from man to man, never finding what she wants, and ends up becoming a lesbian or a prostitute. And you, who don't know how to control yourself and how to guide and control and protect your home, can't deal with the intelligence of a woman except through your fists. Then when you find you can't handle her even with that, then you become a homosexual. And then the preachers and the teachers can't talk about what God wants because you're more political than you are a man or woman of God. So you allow madness to go on in the church as long as money comes in. Nobody wants to represent God.
There it is. There it is. The minister. You're playing right there.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Praise
brothers
be to
and
Allah.
sisters, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking and teaching on the divine value of the black woman. So I want to lead off with this question, Sister Paquita. In your eyes, being a woman today navigating this world, what do you see when it comes to the value or lack thereof of the black woman?
Say that question, the last part again. You said, what do I
I said, what do you see when it comes to the value or the lack thereof of the black woman?
Praise be to Allah. I feel like at this point in our life that we're at the same place we were. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in Message to the Black Man wrote all through page 58 through 60 about the black woman and how we're not protected, we're not elevated, and day by day we're devaluing our own selves. And I believe that comes from lack of education. We are not teaching ourselves, we're not teaching our children, our daughters, the value. We are letting the television devalue us. And I just feel like it's getting worse. I haven't really been paying attention to what's going on with WAP. I really don't even know what it stands for. But I've seen little posts and little clippings here and there just in regards to the situation. And I just feel like our mindset is changing. Like our mind is in filth. And the minister talked about that. Like we have to change that part. So yeah, I feel like we're devalued. You know, like we're the least of the least at this point, and we need to be elevated.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, it's funny that you mentioned WAP because when that video dropped, I believe last week sometime, and Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, the artist that's on the record, there were a lot of black women defending the lyrics of WAP, defending the image that's being portrayed of black women in WAP. I saw women that was going live about it, saying that the men that's speaking out against the video are not speaking out against the video because they really are upset about the image that it's in, but really it's some other underlying agenda that men have for speaking out when they were saying that their brothers was fake woke and all this kind of stuff. So you had a lot of black women defending Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and the message that was putting out, not more so the artist, but really the message that was being put out. So what do you say to that when you have black women actually defending this behavior?
Your phone is staticking a little bit, but like you said before, I think it's just lack of knowledge of ourselves. Like, we have not been taught. And I look at myself for an example. Growing up, like, you should have the traditional, your mother, your grandmother, that village that raises the child to see the child off and help the daughter. A lot of that we don't have. I don't know what's happened in the last few generations, but a lot of that some of us don't have. So I grew up not seeing a lot of images of, black women uplifting themselves, I would say, outside of my mom and the sisters and believers in the Nation of Islam. In the world, that was a constant degeneration for us, like just constantly going down. Us women, we just lack knowledge. We don't know who we are. We don't know why Allah, God, created us and for what purpose. There's no way you can defend. All I seen was not cooking and not cleaning, and that just threw me. I was just done with that, because there is no way. You know what I'm saying? Your mother and your grandmother, they teach. Like, my daughter's 10. She's 10. I'm in the kitchen teaching her how to cook. I'm teaching her the value of cleanliness, that cleanliness is next to godliness. I don't see no other way around that. So the only way that people can justify that is that they're not taught, because you got grandmothers and aunties out here doing the same thing, trying to get the attention of a man, devaluing themselves. So what can a woman expect, or a child or a girl can expect, if they see their grandmothers and their aunties and they're making it okay?
That's a good point. That's a good point. So would you say that the old adage is that it takes a village to raise a child? So
Definitely.
really, is it the adults? It's on the adults. It's the responsibility of the adults. It's the responsibility of the mothers. It's the responsibility of the fathers to be present, one, in the lives of their children, especially their daughters. Well, I can't say especially their daughters. We're talking about the black woman, but it's extremely important for black men as well. But
Definitely.
I think that the parents play a huge role in this as well. So would you say that is it because the parents have become more like friends to their children versus actually teaching and guiding them in the proper way that they should be guided?
Definitely. I grew up a certain way. My mom was super strict. When I say in the teachings, she made us recite lesson number C1. We couldn't go down the street. If she couldn't see us, we were too far. She was so strict, and I didn't understand that. But I can say she guided us from not being raped or molested at a young age. She kept us away from certain individual people. But I would say a village, because, like I said, my mom is the only child, so I don't have uncles and aunties and things like that. But had I had them, if they were guiding me, for example, if I decided to sneak outside with a little skirt on, and they know, oh no, ma'am, they should stop me right then and there. No, ma'am, you cannot go outside like that. Have you lost your mind?
Right.
At every standpoint, there should be a door. Because some mothers are not strong like that. They want to be their children's friends, so they'll let their children do whatever. Matter of fact, they'll go and buy their children certain outfits, certain clothes, let them have their hairstyles in certain ways to where they look way older than what they really are. Let them stay out beyond times that we should even be outside as grown women. We should be in before really it gets dark, because it's dangerous. Every hour that it gets closer into the midnight hour is dangerous. So women should be inside, and your children should be inside. But because you want to be your child's friend, you're allowing them to be out all types of night, all around men, have boyfriends inside the house with you, because you feel like, oh, well, they're in here with me, I know what they're doing. You don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're watching. You're seeing they're on TikTok and they following their friends and seeing what they're doing, and they're going to mimic that because that peer pressure is so strong.
So what would be some advice that you would give to young mothers today that's dealing with this, trying to get that balance, trying to make sure that they're doing the right thing? What type of advice would you give them?
My first advice would definitely be to educate yourself. Get books, read, keep positiveness in your mind. Like when you're watching TV, turn off anything that's provocative movies that incite sexual activity in children and anything against what you really want. Give your children more books about traveling the country and the world and learning about things that they never experienced. And a lot of hands-on. A lot of children and parents, they come in, they children in one room, then another room. They don't know what's going on. Families not eating together, sitting together at the table anymore. Everybody's on social media and on their phones, and everybody's just doing their own thing. You don't know if your child is suffering from anxiety or stress, or if they're into peer pressure. You don't know if they've had sex. You don't know if they smoke a cigarette, because you really don't conversate with them, at all. And so build the bond. During quarantine, this is what the minister was saying. This is the time to go into our chambers and reconnect to one another, because we lost the connection being in this world, working jobs 9 to 5, just staying away, stress of bills and stress of just whatever else we have going on. And I also would add to let the children and young girls see positive images of Black love. We don't see that enough, because most of the homes are mostly led by single Black women who are struggling just to make ends meet and get by. And so children are seeing strong women, but they don't see strong marriages and strong relationships and strong families. So when they grow up, it's going to be a generational curse. It's going to be something that's going to continue to repeat itself over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something important, and we could actually segue into that now. Specifically, you mentioned marriage and seeing the strong Black family. Why does it seem like Black women, the younger Black women, don't want to be married? I actually know of someone who was actually married and decided that for whatever reason they got a divorce, and now her whole mentality or her whole mindset as it pertains to marriage is that she doesn't want to be married ever again. And one of the things that she mentioned is that she doesn't want anyone to feel like they own her. So what would you say, what type of impact does marriage have on the upbringing of young girls?
Praise be to Allah. I've seen that too. I've seen people who've been in a marriage and decided, I'm done with men. I'm done with trying to make it work, and I just want to do my own thing and go on my own. And because again, the media and television, they promote so much independence from women, and you don't need a man and all of this and that. But back to, again, wisdom and knowledge. We have to see love. Most of the Black movies and shows is always showing some type of man disrespecting a woman, mistreating her, cheating on her, dogging her out. And so that has become the order of the day. Brothers are, some brothers, are not learning about themselves and working on themselves to be able to push and uplift the women. And so they're going into these relationships unhealed from childhood. Women are going into relationships unhealed from childhood. We're walking around with trauma. We're walking around with baggage from previous relationships that we have not healed yet. So we're taking this into other relationships and marriages, and we're not healing ourselves, and we're blaming the other person for our problems, and we're not looking at ourselves. And so now when the relationship is over, you're still blaming that other person. You're not looking at you and asking Allah to help you to see yourself so that you're able to work on yourself. I've been separated and divorced over 3 years. And throughout the time, like, I have been working on myself. I have not been in a rush to remarry because, I know that a lot of it was due to him and what he was doing to me, but a lot of it was also myself. I had to look at myself and ask myself, why did I choose that type of person? Why did I stay in this certain type of relationship if I wasn't being fulfilled? Why I have so many children by this man? All these things that I had to sit down and ask myself, because something obviously was missing from my life when I was young. And I pinpointed it. It wasn't just that I didn't have my father there. I seen no man in my life at all growing up. None. I've never been to a wedding as a child, period. I never seen black love. So what my black love was is watching Gina and Martin on TV. That was black love to me. Wow. Watching shows, watching Bernie Mac show and all these different shows that I watch, and just getting that fantasy and illusion from what I thought marriage was. I didn't see people arguing and fighting a lot. So I didn't know that when you get into a relationship, y'all going to have disagreements. How do you solve that? I didn't know how to solve a disagreement with a man, because I've never seen anybody go back and forth with a man to know, okay, sometimes you as a woman got to be quiet. You're not going to always be right. You got to get rid of the ego. And so we got to learn to educate ourselves and learn not only about ourselves, but about that man, about the opposite sex. Who is he? Why did Allah place the man in our lives? Why are we women placed into the man's life? What is a helpmeet? These are questions we have to sit down and reevaluate, because we probably don't even know.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I think you're speaking to really the importance of understanding yourself, understanding what it is or what your role is as a woman, and also studying the role of a man so you can properly identify what is able to mesh or actually able to go with you as your individual person. So I feel like it's important, and I tell a lot of people who ask for advice when they talk about this specific subject, male and female relationships in our community. I think, as you mentioned, you don't really see a lot of us working on self before we decide to get into a relationship. We haven't developed or cultivated the proper relationship with the Creator, with the Lord, with God, before we go out and try to cultivate and develop a relationship with someone else. We haven't actually learned the proper science of mating, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us. It's a science to mating. It's a science to everything in life. And the way that Black people have been reared in America and coming up under the slave master, we haven't been taught these particular things. So we do things haphazardly, and as the result of it, we see what the community is like. So I feel like that's very powerful. And you have artists like the City Girls that say they don't have a job, they are a job, and I can't even repeat the rest of what they're saying. The images and the lyrics that are being put into the ears of the young girls, being put in the minds of the young children. So really, when they duplicate this behavior, if you as a parent allow it, then it's really nothing to say, because you're allowing this to happen, or they're watching you. Because a lot of our children don't understand, or a lot of our children don't hear what we say. They're watching what we do. So we have to be extremely mindful with that. But let's kind of segue over now, because one of the things, before I go there, Megan Thee Stallion was in the news maybe about a month or so ago, dealing with her relationship with Tory Lanez, and whatever the situation happened, she was into an altercation and was shot in the foot. And Tory Lanez had something to do with it. He was, and I don't know if the brother's guilty or not, but we know that they had some type of altercation. Can you give your thoughts on that situation and how it was received by Black women in particular, as they saw Megan kind of going through this situation, and also from the brother's perspective, how did they see that playing out? Because oftentimes when we're in relationships with each other and we don't have these teachings, then they become toxic. And even sometimes with it, as human beings, you still can end up in toxic relationships. So could you give some perspective on that?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. I didn't even like that whole situation. I mean, all the way to the police when the incident had took place and they were getting out the truck and the police is making them lay down and telling them to spread and all of that, like all of that, you know. But again, it says nobody's going to value us if we don't first value ourselves. How can we even demand respect if we don't respect ourselves? You know what I'm saying? Every other race across the earth, they respect their women. You know, I mean, you got some countries that won't let women do certain things, but for the most part, you know, they have a level of respect when it comes to their women. And it is here that the level of respect is so low for women. We're not valued. They value dogs sometimes more than they value us as Black women, you know. And so that whole situation, yeah, that was pure toxic. You know, and if you take up for the man and you say, oh, my relationship is like this, and, you know, y'all all been through something, then that's basically doing the same thing, is giving people hopes and dreams in a toxic relationship and telling them that that's okay. And it's not okay. You know, nobody should be abusing you as a woman. Nobody should be mistreating you as a woman. But if you're staying in relationships where you're being abused and mistreated, then you're telling them that this is okay. And it's not okay. You know, and the same for the brothers. You got to educate yourself and heal yourself, because if not, you're going to mistreat a woman knowingly and unknowingly. Because a lot of brothers, sometimes this is how they were raised. Some brothers grew up seeing other Black men slap women around, cuss at women, disrespect them. So that is a learned behavior. And it has to be unlearned. And the same for the women. You know, if you're around and you're seeing your mother take mess from men, you seeing her sitting at home and men are coming into her bedroom and her home at all times of the night, then what can you expect the child to do when they grow up? Because children, they don't do as you say, they do what they see. You know, they do what they see. So you can tell them all day long, grow up and be a scientist. But if you're not pushing them into things that will broaden their minds and their horizons and things like that, then they're going to do whatever they're surrounded by. We're only a circumference of our experiences in our life. And that's all we know. So even with that situation, I feel like she's in a toxic relationship, and so many other women, and the women that justify it and feel like it's okay. That's how you know how tragic it is, because it's so many of us thinking that behavior was okay. It's not okay. I thought it was okay. And that's why I feel like I can speak for the women, because I was in a relationship with a narcissistic person who I didn't even know something was wrong at first. I knew something was wrong, but I could not put my finger on it. I'm like, something's not right. You know, I haven't been in a lot of relationships. When I got with him, I was 20 years old. So I didn't know. I was just fresh out of, you know what I'm saying, college, trying to do my own little thing. And, you know, when I met him, that's what it was. But it was so toxic. And it was like kryptonite. It was like an addiction. I didn't know that I was even being mistreated and abused at the level that I actually was until I stepped out of it and saw myself. Until I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaching about the value and the importance of the woman, why we were created.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And man, and just to listen to your story is so powerful, because, you know, one can speak to things that they haven't experienced due to research and, you know, the power of the internet. But when you hear someone speak on something that comes from experience, it adds a whole nother level of passion and a whole nother level of accountability or reliability to what the person is saying, because it's not something that they heard. It's not something that they saw through a second person view or a third person view. They actually went through it themselves. So with that being the case, you know, this is one of the things that a lot of women are going through, and they have no voice for it. So, you know, I'm thankful for you coming onto this platform, just to lend your voice and to speak to some of these issues, because it's something very important. And then when we talked about the imagery and the television, you know, you have movies. Why Did I Get Married? I think, or no, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, one of those Tyler Perry movies, where the mother with Blair Underwood was allowing her daughter knowingly to be abused by a man for the comfortability of his money and the lifestyle. And this was being pushed throughout the movie, throughout the narrative. So you have mothers. This was also done in the Ike and Tina Turner movie. What's love got to do with it? Where her mom would tell Tina, Ike is providing for you, so it's okay for him to beat on you. They were placing the blame on the women. What did you do to him?
Exactly.
What are you doing to him? So
Exactly.
You're feeding the toxicity of the man in his mind, his sick mind. He needs help. But now you're fanning the flames. You're feeding to his toxic behavior, all for a lifestyle or for money or for all of these different material things. So it's something really that we have to look at, and why separation is key, because we have to heal. Black people have to heal because we have gone through so many different traumatic situations, so much trauma in our life, that we really have to take time to really heal, because it's layered. And you see the PTSD, the post-traumatic slave disorder, and so many other things that come into play. But I want to segue into what is going on in the news, circulating in the news with our sister Breonna Taylor. Many of us have heard her name, know her name, say her name, and we know that she was a front lines worker, healthcare worker in Louisville, Kentucky, who was sleeping in her home when the police decided to kick in her door, and for whatever reason, and open fire on her and her husband, fiance, or boyfriend, killing her in her own home. There was also another sister in Texas who was killed in her home. I believe her name was Tatiana. She was killed in her home after the neighbor sent the police over there just to do a wellness check. And he thought it was okay to shoot and fire into an occupied dwelling.
That's right.
So obviously we know about Sandra Bland. So you see the devaluing of Black life and Black women. So our sister Tamika Mallory is going to be they're doing a protest August 25th in Louisville, Kentucky. But the killers have not been brought to justice when it comes to Breonna Taylor. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, praise be to Allah. I'm trying to find the killers. They don't care. That's the reality of the world that we live in. They don't care. And even if they find the killers, who can say what penalty they're gonna have to suffer from? They're letting people go that we saw a public lynching on TV. And they let them just go, and they shopping at Walmart and doing their own little thing. So, we just at the place where number one, like you said, we have to separate. That's the first thing. And two, we have to learn the value of each other. We have to learn real love and compassion. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pushes that so much. We do not know what love is. We have got to learn what love is when it comes to each other. But right now, we have to separate from our open enemy, because they don't care about us, because we don't care. They know they can come into a home and kill a Black woman. And guess what? Nothing's done. Right now, nothing's done. So at this point, they can go do it again. And what we're going to do, we're going to go downtown. We're going to protest. We're going to knock over some stuff. We're going to burn some stuff down. What is that going to solve? That's not going to solve anything. It's not going to solve anything for any of the Black men that has been murdered, because that's all we're doing. The only thing that's going to solve our open problem is to separate from them, because we cannot live in peace among them in any shape, fashion, or form. I woke up one morning not too long ago, maybe a month or two ago. There were 5 police officers outside in the middle of the street, lined up, walking around my car, my mom's car, walking around the front window. And Allah woke me up. It was like 5 on the dot. And I turned my phone off, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, what's going on? I'm listening to them. They talking, they looking at the license plate and everything. And I'm preparing myself, because I'm like, I don't know what's about to happen, but I know we haven't done anything. So they stayed there for maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and then they left. And then I told my mom, I said, you should go down to the police station and see what that was about. But make a long story short, I don't know if it was a neighbor. I don't know if it was somebody else, but somebody said my mom had a hit and run. And her car doesn't have no damage on it. She has a new car.
Right.
So she wasn't involved in the hit and run. But that, to me, if we could have been asleep, that could have been a way where they just came in the house, and just, we thought someone was in here, who had a hit and run, and just start shooting.
Right.
I mean, this is the reality. They ask questions later. They're doing what they want to do. And so we have to stand up as a unity. If you're not going to protect your Black woman, then they can care less of what you got to say. There's no talking about it right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that right there is a traumatic experience within itself. And again, this family is something that's not new. This isn't brand new. This just didn't start with the recent happenings that you're seeing. But this has actually been something that has been incentivized. This is something that has been in the mind of those who are in government and leadership for a very, very long time. And I want to read to you something that Dr. Wesley highlighted in his book on understanding the assault on the Black man, Black manhood, and Black masculinity that is very key and pertinent dealing with this Breonna Taylor case. Now, in 1968, Richard Nixon was the president, and coming from his chief policy director and those who are close to them, who had close conversations with Richard Nixon, gave us the aims and the goals of his campaign. And it's documented in this book. And I want to read this to you. In June of 1971, Richard Nixon launched his war on drugs. He introduced a framework for his war in 1970 with the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Preventative and Control Act. This was a major move. The drug issue, originally a medical and mental health issue under the authority of the Surgeon General and National Institute for Mental Health, was now a crime issue under the authority of the Justice Department. Nixon's bill had two egregious laws, one permitting preventative detention and the other permitting no-knock raids of private homes. The preventative detention bill eliminated bail for persons arrested in Washington, D.C. and subjected them to indefinite pretrial detention if they were deemed a danger to the community, thus in effect permitting the imprisonment of a defendant who has not been convicted and who is presumed innocent of the crime with which he stands charged on the basis of a prediction that he may be a danger. But this right here is the kicker, and this is what I want to connect to Breonna Taylor. The second no-knock law gave DC cops and federal agents conducting drug investigations the authority to smash into homes without first knocking and without announcing themselves. That's very important. This was done in the late 60s, early 70s, 1970, 1971. Richard Nixon put out the no-knock law. And our sister Breonna Taylor was a victim of there being a no-knock warrant as they bust into her home. No-knock, didn't announce themselves under what? The guise of a what? Drug investigation. Because they say that they was looking for there was a drug investigation in the same area of where she lived at. And they claim they had the wrong house. See, as expected, cops were known to rip down doors of innocent families finding no drugs or contraband, just terrorizing citizens. And in the words of North Carolina Senator Irvin North, who was a Democrat, who opposed the bill, this gave the police the right to enter dwelling houses of citizens of the District of Columbia in the same way that burglars now enter these dwelling homes. And the racial implications are clear because why? Washington, D.C. was, of course, mostly Black. So, and it would likely be mostly Black people who would feel the blunt brunt of this new policy. These racist draconian laws, especially the no-knock law of President Nixon, should bring to mind the words of CIA asset Dr. Jolly West, who equally racist and draconian proposal Nixon funded. So you have to understand that this is not something that is coming from just your local police departments. This is something that is dripping down from the top. Government funded programs and policy to allow no-knock warrants, no-knock laws, where people can now be systematically harassed pretty much by the police. And it's policy that they can do this. So this is why you have our sister Tamika Mallory that is going to march and protest and do what they do to stand up for our sister. But we have to also think about these policies that are being brought forth within the system. So how much, Sister Tequila, do you think, if any, could there be a change within the system that would allow these draconian laws to be removed? Or is there another solution? Oh, we can't. Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute your mic. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? I feel like, okay, I apologize. Yes. At this point, I believe, like, even if there were not laws, even though there were not laws, if they were laws, I feel like they would still be doing the same thing. You know, they recently I seen them stop an SUV with a family. They were looking for a stolen motorcycle, and they had a family laid out on the ground, a 6-year-old in handcuffs laid out on the ground.
Yeah, I seen that.
Like, what in the world? And my son is 7, so I'm thinking to myself, like, what would I have done in that situation? You know what I'm saying? What would I have done? Of course, we're taught a different way to just calm down, and but come on now, that to me, that was against the law. What did you need to stop a whole family for? Right. Because we have to separate, because their laws and rules are not governed for us. What they do, they're telling us that they can do what the heck they want to do and be justified. All the killings that have happened over the years, most of them were not justified killings, but they made them justified under their own law because it's their law. So there's really nothing that we can do about anything. Again, if something else happened and they say, well, we were looking for drugs and we kicked down somebody's door and shot somebody, they still feel it's justified. And the fact that they haven't sought justice for Breonna Taylor at this moment shows you the very thinking. It's a mindset. You know what I'm saying? It's a mindset. It don't matter who's at the police station, who's there. It's a mindset that trickles down. They cover one another. They look out for one another. They back each other. It's not just the police. Like he said, it's the judge, it's the jurors, it's the coroners. It's all of them together. So the only thing we can do is secure a place for the women, for our families. We got to get them away from these inner cities. Right. That's why land is so important right now. You get some land, you get your family on that land, you keep them out of, this our enemies' food, their kitchens. We keep them out of their stores. We have our own. We shop at our own. Then we don't have to worry about being disrespected and mistreated. You go into one of their stores and they kick the man out because he didn't have a mask on, but they got a whole bunch of other Caucasian people in the store without masks on. They don't want us in their stuff. So why do we keep pushing ourselves into their society, into their environment, into their community, and they don't want us there? That's why we're going to keep getting our behinds whooped when it comes to that, because we're not understanding that they're asking for integration, but they don't want integration. They want us to live amongst them, but they want them to be better than us. So everything that they have to have the nicest cars, the nicest home, the best jobs. They want us to live among them so we can look up to them and beg them for a job and beg them for a car and all these type things. So I don't think any laws or anything is going to change anything. I think we just need to separate from them.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the minister in his July called the Criterion. If you have not watched the full lecture, you need to go type that in YouTube. Watch the full lecture of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, July 4th, the Criterion. In that message, he talked about that not only do we have to address the police, but you have to address the police unions, because more so of the police, it's the police unions that allow this type of behavior to go on. They are the ones that sit behind the desk. They are the administrative pieces that allow these type of behavior to go on, because when there's a complaint that goes in about a police officer or a complaint that goes on about a situation, the police union are the ones that are ultimately in charge of the disciplinary actions. But because they are wickedly thinking and they don't value Black life, they don't value Black women, then ultimately they're not going to discipline any officers that go out here and shoot a Breonna Taylor. They're going to put together and fabricate some type of story that will allow them to be able to cover their tracks, because this is just their history, family. So I believe it's extremely important that we now, especially young people, we have to get more in tune with information that will allow us to be safe, information that will allow us to raise our children better. And we have to educate ourselves so that we can educate the children. Because if we're not putting anything into us of truth, light, and love, then we're not going to be able to reciprocate that to the children. And we see it in our society today. So, Sister Tequila, do you have any tips that you would like to give as being a Black woman in this society? What type of tips would you give to single parents out there, single mothers out there today, as it pertains to being prepared and, and just how you move on a regular basis? Hold up. I don't know why you was muted.
I keep doing it. That's me. I'm sorry. You mentioned healing earlier, and I wanted to just read an excerpt real quick from Minister Ava's book, A New Way of Life. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I think the most imperative thing is healing. I think we just have so much trauma from, like you said, slavery, but also passed down from our parents, whatever they were going through, whatever we witnessed, whatever we saw. And we have to have that unwavering faith in Allah. We have to be able to find that connection to Allah, because that's what's going to help us on our journey back to our original selves. We have lost ourselves. And at this point, we're living a beast life. So we're living a life of savagery, because that's all we see on television, in the streets. You're seeing people taking their clothes off. Now you want to take your clothes off. It's just so much. And it's moving at a rate of speed that I can't even keep up with. I'm like, man, this earth is just going so fast and things are happening so fast. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. It's on page 96 of her book. It says, you cannot have peace until you are healed. You and I are in need of healing. How do we get healed? Healing is connected to faith, but there can be no faith as long as the mind holds thoughts that are directly opposed to the possibility of being healed. So it is not only desirable, it is necessary that we dwell every day, every moment on the love and power of Allah God, so that a steady, unwavering faith can be established in the mind. And it also says, don't hold the thought of anything you do not want to see. Do not argue with people. Do not discuss issues that you have already turned over to God. And so I thought that was just fundamental in our lives, because that's what I'm doing. I'm walking with Allah. I see so many of our women walking with God at this point spiritually and just trying to find our way. But it takes the trust. But it takes the time to sit within our own selves and look deeply and be honest with ourselves. Write down our issues and go to work checking them off and dealing with it. Your anxiety, your low self-esteem, your low confidence, whatever you have of judgmental, if you have envy, all these things, you have to look in yourself and you have to be honest. You have to ask God to show yourself and work on it. And I think that's going to help, because you can't want for anyone else what you don't want for yourself. You have to want the same thing for your brother and sister.
Oh, man, that's powerful right there, because that goes back to the study guides, self-improvement, the basis for community development. So, I think everybody should have those books in their library. And because of this COVID-19 coronavirus, this has allowed us opportunity now to either expand our library or start to develop a library, because we had a specific time to shelter in place. And those of us under the leadership of the minister know that we're still sheltering in place, and we should be using this time to not only connect and build with our families, but to read more and to educate ourselves more. And that book by student minister Dr. Ava is a very powerful book that we should have. And again, as I mentioned, those study guides, because those study guides, as you talked about, is dealing with self, dealing with confronting the flaws, confronting the trauma, confronting the different things that that are wrong with you, And once you are able to correct those and to fix those, then you'll be able to build and blossom in other relationships dealing with other people. But I feel like that's extremely, extremely important. So, Sister Tequila, we are coming to the end of the show. And family, we thank you all for tuning in and for, just lending us your ear tonight to discuss these very, very important topics and discussing the state of the nation. As it is, because when you are dealing with the woman, you are dealing with the nation. So the minister said that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught him that there is no heaven for a man, but in a woman. She is your heaven. He said you don't have to die to get heaven, because God gave you a woman so that you can reproduce yourself down the wheel of time, so that she could be a helpmeet to you and help you meet your goals and obligations in life, so that she could comfort your state of mind. See the role of a woman and what she is for you and I as men. So this conversation was beautiful. We thank you for your time. Sister Tequila, could you tell the listening audience how they could stay in contact with you and up to date with you and what you have going on?
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. You all can find me on Instagram under Divine by Nature 1, DIVINE BYNATURE, and the number 1. And on Facebook it's Tequila Muhammad. So I either go from Divine by Nature to most or Tequila Muhammad. And I just wanted to add one more little key thing before we go. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to the black man, he said, "You're the woman. She is your first nurse. She is your teacher. He says your first lesson comes from your mother. And if you don't protect your mother, how do you think you look in the eyes of other fellow human beings? So make sure you protect your wife, your children, somebody else's children. Those are still like your children. We just have to look out for each other as a whole. We have to be that village that we want to see."
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you, Tequila, for giving us your perspective and your thoughts on things that are happening in our community and how we can really better ourselves. And I'm humbled to have you on this platform, and we can't wait to do this again.
Praise be to Allah. I'm so thankful, Brother Zaki. I thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, family. May Allah bless you all.
Yes, ma'am. Wa alaikum salam. Well, family, there you have it. A beautiful sister in the nation, representing how, a sister should represent. And she brought a lot of different points up that we really should take a look at. And really, it starts with self. A lot of the times we don't want to admit to ourselves that we have to work on us. Most relationships is always about putting the blame on somebody else. I'm going to blame him, or he gonna blame her. You the reason why I acted out. She the reason why I hit her in the mouth. Like, we don't want to take accountability for our roles in the toxic relationship. We don't want to take accountability for our roles, men, brothers, on why our women are left unprotected. We don't want to take accountability, sisters, of our attire and the way we go out and show ourselves to the world, so that we can be looked at as civilized people. So a lot of this deals with self-improvement, the basis for community development. So as you see in the comment section, you can actually go to www.noi.org and go to the bookstore and purchase the 2 study guides. This is not exclusive to registered members of the Nation of Islam. This is for anybody who would like to get in and start to study. And I believe if we start to cultivate ourselves, if we start to cultivate people, then what these different ailments and the healing that's needed and necessary will begin to take form in us. Because right now you have broken people getting together with other broken people. You got somebody that's dealt with a traumatic situation and they going to get with somebody else that's dealing with a traumatic situation. So you have 2 toxic people coming together, Megan and Tori, and you produce a toxic situation. Then you have children coming into the picture. So now you got children a part of your toxic situation. So this was a beautiful bill, family, and I appreciate you all for staying with us this long. And if you would like to support the show, it's been scrolling across the bottom. You can send a donation in via Cash App, which is $Campaign TV Show. Again, that is Cash App, Campaign TV Show. You can give your donation there, family, to allow us to keep putting out these powerful, powerful messages, bringing on these beautiful guests, giving this knowledge and information, and having this dialogue, because Black media, as I say, is very, very important. Very important. So if you don't have a subscription to the Final Call newspaper, I suggest you get one. I suggest you go ahead and get your digital subscription. It costs you little to nothing. It costs you less to get a digital subscription for Black media, the Final Call newspaper, than it does to pay your Netflix bill every month. So let's go ahead, subscribe, send your brother your email so I can get you locked in with a Final Call subscription, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said he wants 1 million subscriptions. He wants 1 million subscriptions to the Final Call newspaper, us backing Black media, so now he can begin the work of building a nation. See, but we don't want to finance the building of a nation. We think that someone is going to drop out of the sky and rescue us from our current condition, or we don't have to pick up our cross and bury the weight of building our own nation. No, we got to get our hands dirty. We have to be able to give charity where we can within our own means. We have to donate our time. We have to donate our money. We have to back something that we know is tried and true, which is the Final Call newspaper, because it's been among us for the last 60 plus years. And it's been giving you knowledge itself, news that you can use, international and local news, Black excellence, how to eat to live, an excerpt from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, an excerpt from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of it's there. All of it's there in the Final Call newspaper. So please get you a subscription to the Final Call newspaper, because it's very, very important. I would love to have you on the email list. So again, you can donate via Cash App at the Campaign TV Show, family. But what I'm working on is getting a panel so we can have even more of an open discussion, so we can start to get more perspectives on this situation, on the things that are affecting us, because it's so much. We can't fit it all into one show, but it's so much that we can really do, so much that we could talk about and discuss, and so many solutions that we can start to put in play. But again, this is an educated Black audience that I'm speaking to. I thank you all for tuning in. I thank you all for supporting the show. Thank you so much. And look forward to speaking with you next week. We have an illustrious guest that's going to be coming back doing part 2. I said we have an illustrious guest that's going to be coming back doing a part 2 on the Campaign TV Show. Again, we're going to have Dr. Wesley coming to help us and to show us what the weaponization of marijuana and the weaponization of hip hop has done to the community. So my brother will be back next week. So you don't want to miss that. So set your dial, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We right back here, family. So again, please send in those donations. We certainly appreciate you. Thank you again. Peace and blessings. Shalom. Ashe. Assalamu alaikum.